and welcome to a demo on coil building. So I wanted to show you first some examples of what coiling can do, starting with this big honkin' thing. So you can build really big with coils. This is another thing made out of coils, both blended on the inside and on the outside. And then this last one, the coils have not been blended together, and that's an option. If you want more of a decorative design, you can actually draw with coils. So you'll want a banding wheel. You'll want a serrated rib. I use that for scoring. You'll need a variety of ribs. So a couple options here. We've got the metal rib. We've got a wooden rib. You may also have a rubber rib. So we'll use those for smoothing. You also want a cup of water for the scoring and slipping. I often find that when I'm coiling on the banding wheel, that the clay may get stuck. So for that reason, I like to have just a piece of paper towel so it doesn't get stuck. So starting your coiled piece, you need a base to put the coils on. So I have a few options that I'll offer for you. You already know how to make a pinch pot, so we could start with a pinch pot and add the coils and grow up. Another option is creating a pokey. So you'll do that by taking a chunk of clay and think about how wide of a base you want. Tap it into a ball, and then we're going to flatten it out into this base. Have it in your non-dominant hand, and your other hand, you're just going to squish into it. Very similar concept of compressing the clay, just like with pinch pots, but this time I'm going to use the heel of my hand to squeeze in to make this this pokey a little bit thinner and wider. Now you can also do this by rolling out clay using a rolling pin or a slab roller, but if you don't have those materials, you can just make a pokey with pushing your palms together, and that creates just as well. The third option for making the base is making a coiled base. So I've already rolled out a long coil, kind of around the thickness of my thumb. I'm just going to spiral it together. From here, you want to blend it together. I really like using my serrated rib again. Now this seems a little counterintuitive, I know, to scratch it up with a serrated rib to get it smooth, but this really does work to combine and compress the clay really well and get it all stuck together. So you want to scrape it up first, and then you can either just flip it over, or I like to use my other rib to smooth that all back out. And you're going to start by squeezing it between your hands into kind of like a sausage shape. So squeezing it from one hand to the next to get a little bit longer. As you're squeezing, remember to turn it as well, so you're getting an even thickness all the way around. And once it gets to about like the size of a sausage or a hot dog, that's when you can put it down on the table. A little trick that I've learned is that before you do that, you give the coil a little bit of a twist, and that will help it stay round. Once you put it down on the table, then have your fingers together to start, and you're just going to roll back and forth, but you want to think about continuously rolling the coil. So you don't want to stop at either side, and you want to get your full length of the hand. So as I'm rolling, I'm not adding a lot of pressure right now, but I'm starting in the center and rolling out. So you can probably hear this making this sound. And that means that it's flat on one side. I can see it and I can feel it, that it's a little bit flat right here. This happens to me all the time. So a trick is that if you bring it upright so it's taller this way, tap it down so it's more of a square shape, give it a little bit of a twist, just a little bit, and then roll it back out. So as soon as the coil starts to get flat on one side, stop immediately. It's already doing it again. Tap it down to make it a little bit more squared, give it a little bit of a twist, and roll out again. It's thick right here, it's a little bit thinner right here. So while I'm rolling out the coil now, I'm going to concentrate on this spot. So wherever it's thicker, that's when you want to put your hands on there and roll it out, and just kind of ignore where it's a little bit thinner. My coil is much longer than what I need to get around the perimeter here of my base. So I've cut off one side at an angle, and I'm just going to measure loosely. It won't be exact, but just so I'm not working with this really long coil here. And it's about, so that size. I'm going to cut that off an angle, but I know I've got some extra clay here. But for this, I'm just going to put that aside for right now. For my first coil, I'm going to need to score and slip. When applying the coils, I like to use both of my hands. So I'm going to press down with one, and using the banding wheel, I'm going to pinch as I place this coil down. Once I get to the end, now I have a lot of extra. So I'm going to take my rib and cut off that extra, but at that angle so they can really form together. A little bit of scoring and slipping right here. Use your finger just to blend the inside so you don't see that seam anymore. This will make the walls much stronger. You want to blend the coils as you go along. You can use your finger, you can also use your metal rib. Then turn on its side for this first one. It's really important that you bring the first coil into the base, so you blend that in together, nice and smooth. And then we just repeat the process. So again, taking another coil, loosely measuring about how wide you need it, cutting off the extra, scoring and slipping both sides, and then attaching. So the basics again. Start with the base, score and slip the very first layer at that angle, add one coil at a time, one layer at a time. You need to blend at least the inside, maybe the outside as well. That is up to you. You want to have at least, though, the inside blended. So for my next coil, say I wanted to go wider, instead of placing the coil right on top of the first one, I would place it slightly on the outside here and attach there. When I'm blending, I have my hand on the outside with my hand angled out, and then I'll blend in like this while pushing outside. If I wanted the form to come in, get narrower, I would place this coil slightly on the inside of that last coil. When I'm blending, I would cut my hand in and blend that together. Another way of changing the form is using your wooden paddle. This is a lot easier once it gets much larger, but you can use your paddle to paddle the coils together, as well as bringing the shape in and really refine that form. Another way of using coils is to build height on something that you've already created. So I made a pinch pot, but I want to make it taller. So I could take a coil and make a pretty thick coil and attach that. So this coil, all I'm looking for is to have it as long as it needs to go around the rim. Got a little bit extra clay here, so I'm just going to cut off that little bit. You'll need to score and slip the rim of your pinch pot. Then I'll take my donut and I'll actually score and slip this together so it can go on more uniformly. I'll first start by pinching down slightly, angling in. So I first want the clay to go down around the rim of my first pinch pot. Now just think about as if you had a really thick pinch pot and you'll pinch it up. To get the clay to go taller and not wider, the way I'm pinching is with my 2 fingers. I'm pinching but then squeezing my thumbs together. Now I've got this really great height, but I have some inconsistencies. I can really see where the first pinch pot began and the coil started. So I'm going to take my serrated rib and score all of that together. And then I'll blend it back together. If I wanted to change this form, I could do the same thing with the wooden paddle. Get the wheel spinning and really slowly bring the needle tool closer, so you just draw a line. Stop the banding wheel and use a knife, a needle tool, a sharp rib, and just cut that excess off. You want to do this regardless if you're done or still working. You want to add the next coil onto a flat piece like this. So that's the basics of coiling. There's a lot to learn, I know, but now on to what your next project is. You have 4 musts. It must be made out of coils. It must fit in your box, either the regular way or going tall if you want to get a larger piece. It must have a personal connection to nature, and I'll get more into that. And lastly, we're going to have a sgraffito element to it. This project here has sgraffito on the outside. That means is that this is white clay with a black underglaze that I've carved through to get all these designs. So your sgraffito design should also incorporate that personal connection to nature theme. We've learned a little bit about the studio habits in mind in the first couple weeks of this mini term. So we've learned about developing craft. So for this project, you're developing craft on how to engage and persist. That's going to be really important for this project because coiling, at least for me, has been really challenging, and I've really had to persist in it and really engage in the process and not getting distracted by other things. The next 2 studio habits of mind that you'll be learning and utilizing in the studio is envision and express. So envisioning means, can you think in your mind of your project and think on yourself, by yourself, the next steps? And then express, can you make meaning with your artwork? So that theme of a personal connection to nature, that will inherently make it expressive. So your homework is to go outside. I want you to go outside, take a walk, and notice your surroundings. Take at least 3 pictures of your walk. Maybe you go down to the beach, maybe you go through the woods, or maybe you're looking down and finding little objects that you find in the woods. So something nature inspired and something that is personal to you. So why did you choose to take a walk in that place? Why did you choose to pick up that object? Use those things, those photographs, those objects to inspire you for this next project. Hope you enjoy.